Where the Crawdads Sing is a movie I discovered recently while I was talking with a stranger in a hostel who said he actually played in this movie, like as an actor. And so I was instantly intrigued because I read the book and I read the critics. The book was actually like a crazy experience. It made me just speechless. It made me cry. It made me like hopeful. It made everything with me. So I was like really intrigued to watch the movie. And while I was watching the movie, I saw that this movie is not gonna keep up with my expectations. So while I was watching the movie, I already thought about the subject of the podcast because I was like, okay, this is gonna be like a very interesting material to analyze. Because the book that I read was fantastic and the movie that I was seeing was okayish. So I wanted to know why is that? Why had I so much emotions while I was reading the book and why so less when I was seeing the movie? Because in some cases, rare cases, it's actually the opposite. And so I want to talk today about movie adaptations of books and why these two medias are so different and what the complicated work is that has to be done so it's actually a success, or let's say it's actually a good piece of art. So let's dive let's let's dig deep into this. I'm Attila, I'm your host, and you're listening to Movie Prosecutioners. Let's go. Okay, so obviously from a subjective point of view, there will always be a dissonance between the vision you as a reader have and the vision that the director of a movie has. There are cases in which the director didn't even read the book, but even if they did, the results are different. Have to be different from what the individual imagined while reading the book. Why is that? So a movie is a very high degree of interpretation, and obviously when we read the book ourselves, we create an image according to our experience, our fantasy, our own life, what we saw in our life. So even if every scenery, like every scene is one-to-one recreated from the book to the movie, you will have a difference. Your mind will create more than just what was written in the book. You will have certain images about the background. Maybe you have certain stuff in the face of a character where you like add some details that you think are fitting to the character that you read about. Maybe you even have sounds or colors in mind for certain sceneries, certain places that are mentioned in the book. So you will have an interpretation in your head while you're reading the book, and this is forced. Your brain will create these images and the director will create other images, except you're the same person, because every person had different experiences and every person has like different sceneries and colors they like, or sounds, or whatever little details in their life that are different from others. So they will also have a different fantasy, and these kind of difference will always be there for everyone when they like start to read a book and then watch the movie. They will engage in a different fantasy from before. So in order to enjoy an adaptation of a book that you like, if you have already read the book, you have to be open for the interpretation from others for this book. So I believe that especially people who have already created a deep emotional connection to a book or a series or whatever find it difficult to actually enter in someone else's vision. So for example, I already saw the Harry Potter movies from the early 2000s. So when they now will create, what they probably do, another series about Harry Potter with new young actors and like a little bit more different and more detailed storylines, I think there will actually be a lot of difficulties for me to adapt to this, because I actually have a very close relationship to the movies, because the movies is what I first saw. And there I can make other examples. Let's talk about the movie that I actually mentioned at the beginnings, where the crawdads sing. I really was like so taken by this book, that I was like, I was seeing, like, I imagined certain scenes when I was reading the book. I imagined like a mystery swamp. I imagined like a lot of fog. I imagined how this young girl is growing up and living in the swamp and takes care of herself and is fishing and is living, and at the same time has to hide from the other people who live in the nearby city, and she's fearing them. And there's a certain music, as I said, a mystical vibe around this book, and it made like the whole experience so full, and I had so many pictures in my head when I was actually reading it. And so the movie was very clean, and the movie had also a certain center of attention that for me was a lot less important. Obviously we're getting to know this in a bit. So to get over to the next point, why it's very difficult to adapt a movie and how it's done correctly, it's like a movie is a commercial product through and through. Like, obviously you have the part of the art and the creation and the script and a lot of very artistical values that are put in a movie, but at the end it's a very, very big project-based venture that you do there. And it's always, there are a lot of constraints in a movie. A book can be created in a very different way. You can write however you want, and actually you just need a computer and a lot of fantasy and time to write a book. That's at least how I imagine it. And how I imagine a movie creation, you see these gigantic sets. You have to have like a lot of people, a lot of actors who have like timetables and time slots, and it's very difficult to create a movie around that. You also have like a very tight budget. Like always, every director ever made an interview said you always have a tight budget, even if you have a gigantic budget. You never like film below the budget. And so there's a lot of risk involved, and also you have to like work on something for 1 or 2 years, and then it's getting one way of getting money back, and this is like the cinema. And then you have, nowadays you also have like different ways to like sell it on Amazon, and you have like certain platforms like Netflix where you can make money from, like to license like your movie and give them to them for a few years. But this is only really working for like the big movies and the cult movies, like the movies who are so pop culturally relevant that they actually make a lot of money now on these streaming platforms. But yeah, so there are a lot of constraints, and one of the biggest one is like the screen time. So that you can put the reason why every movie that you see, every blockbuster is kind of 2 hours 15, is because this is kind of the time so that you can have a lot of screenings in the cinema. So obviously if you have 3-hour movies and you put them together, you have, the cinema is open for 12 hours, and then you have like 4 screenings, and in between you have to like kind of clean the room and stuff like that. So maybe you have even less than 4 screenings if the cinema is open for 12 hours. And these screenings get more and more the shorter the movie is. The reason we don't do like a very short movie is obviously you cannot put like the whole structure that the movie normally has in one of these movies. So a movie is usually between 1 hour 30 for comedies and 2 hour 15 for big blockbusters. And then certain artistic movies or movies from very, very big names like Martin Scorsese or Francis Ford Coppola, they can actually have a lot of more screen time because they're artists and they have a certain freedom. But this is quite rare. So you will mostly see movies with a certain structure and a certain amount of time to show things. And while the book is far easier being like open to alternative versions of writing, a movie is normally has a pretty classic structure of 3 to 5 arcs. You have a midpoint, you have like at the beginning you have maybe a kick the dog or a save the cat situation. So to explain this a little bit for people who have not read anything about film theory, like a kick the dog situation is where you like make a character be evil, just letting him kick a dog, or like I don't know, be mean to somebody without a reason. So in this situation you instantly kind of don't like this character. And the save the cat situation is basically if you let the protagonist save somebody or help somebody without having a reason. So you make people either likable or non-likable. And then you have like a certain drama that has to peak at like the last third part of the movie. And so you have a very classical structure that is followed, and you will see in a lot of movies that's actually the case. And so especially because you don't want to take risks, if you have like a multi-million, like 150 350 million euro dollar investment, you don't want to like kind of take a risk and not follow certain structures that at least give the ease to the spectators that they actually kind of know and like what they see. That's basically also the reason why you often take books or I don't know, franchises that are already well known and then produce a movie. Like there's already a Pokemon franchise, we do a Pokemon movie. There's already a superhero franchise in comics, we do superhero movies. So this is basically why you always have fans. You already have fans, and then you put out the movie, because a movie is a business and it's a very, very risky business to make a movie. And so we do know now that books can be like more open to alternative structures, and movies are less likely to have that. Obviously, if you want to publish a book, like the creation of the book is very easy, but if you want to publish it, there's also the cost of creating the books, then they have to like make the marketing for the books and so on and so on. I don't want to say that this is like a business where you have like you don't have dependencies at all, but it's like a lot less than a movie and a lot less risk than a movie. So there's something else I want to talk about, because there's not just like the way how it's written can be alternative, but also like kind of how much you put in. Like obviously with a movie you have the great advantage to have sounds and pictures already, so you don't need to describe them, you don't need time to actually go in detail about it, because you actually have in a few seconds people can see your vision of what you want to show and can see the details of the background and the details in the characters. Obviously if they are not good, these details, you see them as well, but the beautiful thing there is the book is different in the way that you can have a lot more time, and you can make different kind of chapters and different kind of storylines, which actually are not really like creating more of a world building. They would actually in a movie be very like putting you off the main plot line. And I think it's pretty interesting to go in detail about Lord of the Rings, because in Lord of the Rings they actually have certain side storylines that are not mentioned. There's, for example, the character Tom Bombadil, and he's one of these examples. He's actually not needed for the characters to evolve. He's not part of the drama at the end, so he's not helping the fight against the dark, not really, and he's not like this important of a character. It's just like a beautiful idea and a beautiful character that you enjoy, that you're fascinated with. He's one of the reasons why you fell in love with the world, with Middle Earth of Lord of the Rings. But he is not essential for the storyline, so he was put out of the movie. And this is actually like putting a focus on what is important to actually have a certain drama, to have a certain peak in the movie. And that's also the problem with where the crawdads sing. You have a very much focus on the murder story. And I also do know that the murder story is at the beginning and at the end of the book, and I remember that quite clearly. I was quite shocked by what was revealed. But I was also like the in between these 2 points, there's like this gigantic time where the main character is growing up, and you actually can like, I don't know, feel the weight that this little child had to endure, and you engage in this kind of world so much that is in between like the storyline of the murder, that I'm actually, I don't know, like I cared about it, but I cared about it because I love the protagonist. And the movie is not taking me there. And the movie is, like, obviously the problem of the movie is they casted, I think, only 2 girls, like the one who's grown up and the one that is like little. And you have a lot more like in between time for like for the book. There we are again with like, you have more kind of room for doing how you want a movie over like these many years with the same characters. There is a movie that actually did that. It's called Boyhood, but this is not this movie. And most of the movies just have 1 or 2 other actors who are playing the grown-ups or the younger versions of the protagonist. But here you have just like, I think, 1 younger version and the protagonist. And this is actually like so much worse. And it's the focus that is on like the murder case and the kind of cleanliness of the pictures. You don't have the mystery, and that's actually like what I loved about the book was not really in the movie, and so I had problems of accepting it. And there we go back to one of my first points. As soon as you have a deep emotional connection to a piece of art, it's like hard to accept a recreation, readaptation of this. And so yeah, this is basically what I think about movie adaptations. I hope you enjoyed this episode and that you're tuning in next time. So until then, goodbye.